All right, I'm gonna do a review of Asmongold's list that he put out here. I've had about probably 20 or 30 people in the last 24 hours either send me this list on Discord, come into my chat and ask me if I've seen this list, or ask me what I thought of it when I hadn't even really looked at it before. I briefly looked at it during my stream yesterday, and just based off the first few selections, I'm going to assume that this was satire on Asmongold's part, because obviously some of this stuff is... There's no way this stuff would fly with the classic community. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just kind of go through this. Like I've said, I've kind of scanned through the list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark off the stuff that I disagree with. There's going to be a lot of red on this list, I have a feeling. And then anything that I can agree with, I'll circle with green or something. So the very first one is no mage boosting. That as somebody that plays a mage in Classic, this part I can agree with. And there's going to be mages out here that immediately give a thumbs down to this video. Go ahead. Alternatively, buff all other XP by 3 times at least. Boost further on alt. Okay, so that's pretty much dog. And the infamous. I'm just gonna cross it out. I'm not gonna circle this. I'm just gonna cross it out. This is pretty much dog. And essentially, the reason I say it's dog is because then that takes away a lot of the interactions that go on out in the world. People are just max level immediately. Part of Classic, getting to 60. Being that there's no mage boosting, one of the things that I suggested was to actually eliminate XP from instances altogether and just increase the amount of XP you get from the quests that you do in the dungeons. So you still get your quests, you still get your quests, you get your XP, and you get the gear that you're normally going in there to get. Alternatively, you could just leave the quest XP the same, get rid of XP in the dungeons altogether, and just boost outside XP by a little bit to offset what you're losing. 3 times the amount. This is obvious. This has got to be a joke. A boob slider. Asmongold's had enough boobs to last him for like the next 10 years, so he doesn't need any bigger boobs. He's already had new raids. Here's the question you got to ask yourself. Do you trust Blizzard to actually make any sort of changes to the game and do them correctly, or just completely screw it up? That's the thing that you've got to ask yourself. You're asking yourself for new raids, Karazhan Crypts, Dragon Isles, Vanilla Outland, Scarlet Crusade raid. I just don't trust Blizzard to do anything without completely screwing up the game. Because of that, if they were actually competent, which we already know they're not, I might consider something like this, but probably still not. But knowing how incompetent they are, this gets a big red. This is dumb. You cannot trust Blizzard to do anything. They can't even do retail properly. They're just going to screw up Classic if you allow them. Like, this is a terrible idea. Harder fights on older content, and before I even continued, no world buffs in raids is the very next one, so doesn't one lead to the other? I would be okay with no world buffs in raids. I've had a lot of back and forth with people that are, worried about the competitive community and not having world buffs. So let me explain something to you. If you're not in a guild that is, say, in the top 10, 15, or 20 in the world, you're not part of that competitive community. I hate to break it to you, but you're not. You're not one of those guilds. You're just in another guild like the rest of us are. And the raids are extremely easy. People basically just cakewalk through this stuff. And if you want to make the raids more competitive for the competitive community, make the raids more difficult and take away their raid buffs. Somebody yesterday used the analogy, what about, in basketball, should you make basketball players only allowed to jump a certain height? And I said, that's not the same thing. World buffs is like giving them a trampoline to jump off of in order to slam the basketball. Harder fights with older content, more mechanics. I don't want them to change the mechanics. No world buffs I would be okay with. I know he's got to be talking about the Chrono Boom stuff here. Does he talk about the Chrono Boom thing here anyways? I don't see it, so I'm going to mention it. I am absolutely against the Chrono Boom. It gets rid of a significant amount of world PvP. So think of all the times in early World of Warcraft, guilds were competing with each other in order to get into the raid and get the raids cleared first and all that sort of stuff. Other raids, whether you were Horde or Alliance, were going to Blackrock Mountain in order to try and wipe them out to take away the world buffs. So if you use the Chrono Boon device, they just store their buffs and then they go into the raid and then they activate it. And it takes away a huge amount of the world PvP that we have in Classic WoW. If you're worried about losing your world buffs, lots of PvE servers, Peggle is that way. It's not a big deal. You can go play on those servers. The second reason that I think the Chrono Boon is ridiculous is exactly what I said, that you can just hold on to it and then activate it once you're inside. I think it takes away a lot from the harder fights and older content, more mechanics. Let me use what's the color between red and green? Let me use yellow. So no world buffs, I might be okay with. See, the problem is it gets rid of a lot of reason to go out and do world PvP, but it also makes the raid content slightly more difficult, which is more fun. It's more challenging. So that's why I'm kind of iffy on it. So this here would then make this here tougher. Like one directly affects the other. No debuff limit. Okay, so that goes against exactly what we're talking about here. Harder fights on older content. And then you want to allow everybody to have a no debuff limit, which makes the raids immediately easier. Right? Like it just, and I play a mage and I also play a warlock. So my warlock is directly affected by this. We want the raids to be more competitive, harder, not easier. Rebalancing of classes, especially Ret, Moonkin, and Prop Paladin. Do you guys trust Blizzard to be able to rebalance classes? I don't think that I do. Like basically they're asking, I can maybe get on board with this if they're giving them enough buffs so that basically like a Moonkin can do the same amount of damage. Maybe not the same, but maybe they get like a mana regen so that they maybe don't do as much damage as a mage, but you're not looking at a Moonkin going, oh man, we're never taking a Moonkin, like screw that. Or a Ret Paladin, right? Like as much as someone might advocate that Ret Paladins are actually okay, the rest of us are kind of like meh. If they were going to maybe make Ret Paladins do slightly more damage, not so much that they're doing as much damage as a Fury Warrior, but they bring other advantages to the raid, maybe I could see that. I worry. I'm going to put it in yellow because, again, Blizzard doing anything to change, I don't trust them. They'd rebalance it and screw it up. Arenas, okay, this is, come on, the hell. More realistic RBGs. Arenas, a definite no. A definite no. More realistic RBGs. I'm gonna cross that out too. No respec cost. No, you need a gold sync. So you definitely need maybe a lower cost, but definitely. What color am I? But definitely not no respec cost. Because he's saying none. I'm saying maybe you could reduce it a little bit. Okay, so let me all right, need to keep it. All right, no honor system rank 14 grind. No. Come on, man. Like, no honor system or rank 14 grind. That is the reason a lot of people play the game. I could maybe understand if people are going to suggest that we reduce the amount of decay of honor because people have lives, but being able to call yourself a rank 14 mage is pretty fucking cool. A lot of people do this grind just to be able to do it. You can't eliminate that. That's a huge part of the PvP in the game. Guild banks. You know what? I'm not going to lie. I think I'd probably be okay with guild banks. I might actually be okay with guild banks. Let's circle guild banks. I know I might get hate from that. That's a break from true, like, no changes, but I think guild banks I could live with. I mean, if you're gonna make no, like, be a proponent of no changes, then you've got to allow mage boosting too, right? I mean, I'm okay with that being a change. So guild banks, I probably would shrug my shoulders to that. Mount tab, just like in retail, same with pets. I haven't played retail in a while. Is he mean what? Are you just able to select your mounts right from the mount menu? I think I could be okay with that. The next one I'm gonna get angry over though. I just read the next one. I think I'm gonna get angry here. This is the dumbest shit in the fucking world. This here, summoning stones. Okay, so here's what the problem is with summoning stones, and we're seeing this in TBC. The world is completely dead because you see nobody traveling around, and it makes it to be very boring. All people are doing now in TBC is basically sitting in town, waiting to get summoned to an instance, and that's it. There's nobody traveling around. And before TBC came out, everybody was like, oh, TBC is going to be great. TBC is going to be great. But one of the problems with TBC, there's nothing going on out in the world. This stuff here is part of the problem. So summoning stones, absolutely not. Next one, man, I'm going to get angry there too. Summoning stones is a terrible idea because it's destroying how busy the world is. Like, this is terrible. Oh, Jesus Christ. Maybe new classes? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay? No, absolutely not. AoE looting. Would you guys care if we had AoE looting? Honestly? You know what? Why I would have a problem with AoE looting? And this is an issue for another video, actually, that I'm currently working on, is bot. This may help the average player. This helps bots tremendously, and I absolutely despise. This is another reason why I don't like mage boosting, is bots. Bots bots are able to do mage boosting, and that's what's making the money. If we would get rid of bots, I probably wouldn't have as much problem with mage boosting. Same as AoE looting. If we got rid of bots, I probably would have no problem with AoE looting. But the problem is this stuff isn't even he doesn't even have bots on here. How do you have a classic WoW fresh wish list without wanting to eliminate bots? Anyways, AoE looting. Until they get rid of bots, no. Nope. They've got to get rid of bots. Minigame content like the Darkmoon Fair Gold Saucer. I don't know that I care about minigame content. The part of the classic to me is going out and actually doing stuff in the world. Where are you doing this in? No. That sounds ridiculous. I'm just gonna cross that out. That sounds kind of stupid. Achievement system with a chase meta account reward. Come on, man. You've got this shit in retail, man. If you're just a retail player that wants to play a retail version of Classic, just go play retail. I'm sure Shadowlands is a fantastic expansion. The whole reason we got Classic WoW here is because we were tired of retail. So stop trying to make Classic more like retail. Your version of the game is failing miserably. Stop trying to ruin our version as well. Pre-made group finder like in retail. Pre-made group finder like in retail. Wow. So this isn't the LFG, right? This is just, well, we've got that in TBC. That's the add-on that everybody's using in TBC. I can't remember what it's called right now. Anyways, pre-made group finder like in retail. Wow. So basically what they've got in TBC, yeah, I'm going to give that a yellow. It would clear up chat maybe a little bit, maybe help people find groups easier. And it is kind of a pain in the ass to find groups. I'm almost tempted to give that a green. Like I'm going to, you know what? I'm not going to be a complete negative person over everything here. I'll give that a green because, like, to be honest, they did it right. Again, it's blue, but I'll give that a green. Rare spawn events in the world that are actually difficult and rewarding. There are some that are difficult and rewarding. I've been killed by a few in the hardcore challenge. There are some. I think maybe part of the issue is maybe they need more. Maybe they need to make some of the rare spawns actually more difficult. I don't know that they need more rare spawns, though. I'm kind of ambivalent towards that one. Ambivalency gets a yellow. Ambivalency gets a yellow. Unless he's not talking about like world bosses though, right? He's just talking about like some mobs that are generally a little bit tougher. I'm ambivalent towards that. Respawn. Oh God. Respawn an instance after wipe. No. Part of Classic is that when you wipe, it's just not instantly reappear and try again, wipe, instantly reappear. There's got to be some suffering a little bit. So those runs back when you're doing Molten Core, Blackrock, or whatever, the running back is part of the punishment, man. Nerf repair costs. I don't think I've ever noticed repair costs, to be honest. I guess if you're a tank might. I certainly haven't. I'll put maybe for tanks, but nobody else. So I don't think, like, how much are you nerfing them by? I don't think that's needed. I think I might just mark that as a red because I don't think that's a necessary change. Oh wait, he plays a warrior. He plays a warrior that's given thousands of gold by his followers, and he's worried about his repair costs. But we're going red. We're going full red. Come on, man. You get like billions of gold from your followers. I've watched your stream, man. You get billions of gold from your followers, and you're worried about repair costs. This is improved threat awareness. What does he mean by this? Like, does he not have a threat add-on? I don't know what he means by this entirely, but I don't know why you need more threat awareness. Everybody's got a threat add-on where you can tell where you are exactly in the threat meter. We're crossing this out. Like, we're not making changes here just for the sake of making changes. Like, we want Classic to be Classic for a particular reason. Higher ceiling for professions. One thing that I've always wished, and I've noticed it with New World. I hate to use New World as an example, but New World has a very good system where instead of getting really high-end items off of the higher raid bosses, you get mats that you can then use through crafting with players to get the best gear in the game. I think that's the best system I've ever seen. Unfortunately, crafting, I would like to see help for crafting, but in this version of the game, like, how do you do that? Do you just completely revamp the whole system? So I'm going to leave that as yellow because I'd want to hear how they plan on doing it before I give a red or a green. But the crafting system in Classic, in World of Warcraft in general, is pretty crappy. Rebalancing racials. For Classic, meh. I think the only thing that I might consider doing is maybe, I mean, if you look at the population of servers, a lot of the servers, like, overall, it was pretty close. Like, there are some servers that are really high alliance. There are some servers that are really high horde, which I see he gets to at the very end. Rebalancing the racials. I kind of like having the diversity. You probably need to watch his video to have some context of his opinions. Yeah, but I think just putting like rebalancing racials, I can make up my mind and decide whether I think that's a good idea or not. I like having the diversity. I wouldn't eliminate racials. There's no way I would want to eliminate racials, but rebalancing them. I mean, Alliance has some pretty good racials themselves, you know, like the dwarf racial, the gnome racial is pretty damn good. Maybe they could buff the human one or something like that, but I don't know. I like the fact that there's different racials. So again, I'm gonna leave this as yellow. More powerful day system, and weather. I'll give this a green, even though it changes classic a little bit. Anyone that's watched my stream, I love it when it starts raining in Stragglethorn Vale or something like that. If it would get even darker during nighttime, I think that would be kind of cool, if that's what he means. New hard dungeons? No. New hard dungeons. Would it make other gear obsolete? If they're using these dungeons to maybe spread out the loot table and make it so that maybe there's bosses that you can get loot, or you can get the same loot from, you know, bosses in these new dungeons as you do from other dungeons, I could maybe go for that, but I would be worried that it would make other gear obsolete. Like, they do have new hard dungeons at level 60. Dire Maul. There's a lot of dungeons in Classic. We're going to leave this as kind of yellow because I'm kind of like on the fence. I'm not a hard no, but I'm definitely not a yes. So we're gonna put this one as orange because I'm more no than I am green on this. That's for sure. So I'm more no. No combat add-on. That would make PvP. Does he mean for PvP as well? Or does he mean for raiding? Does he mean everything? I kind of need to hear more from exactly where he's coming from. So depends on what he actually means. I'm not going to go watch an entire video just to understand one point. Faster battle resist. Does he mean faster cast time? Or is it really too slow? I'm going to say no. Or does he mean like the recast time, like the cooldown? I'm assuming he means the cast time, because if he meant the cooldown, he probably would have specifically said the cooldown. If he means the reduced cooldown, it would be because druids are they're not the preferred healing class when you're going into a dungeon, because you can't res. As somebody that plays a druid in TBC, I can understand. Maybe give them oh man, I'm gonna make it yellow because I don't know that I like it, but maybe give them their own res. Maybe give them their own res and have a battle res that's still on a 10-minute cooldown. Maybe. More flight paths? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the reason for that is, once again, we talked about this before. It reduces the amount of travel in the world, thus reducing how busy the world looks, and makes the world a lot more boring. A lot of PvP encounters occur between people traveling around the world just randomly. And if you're reducing that travel, you're reducing the amount of PvP. So definitely a big fat no to more flight paths. Maybe hunter focus. I'm gonna say no. Consume revamp, probably like TBC. See, here's the problem. If they do what should actually be done, and I'm gonna make the note of this, and get rid of bots. If they actually got off their ass and got rid of bots, and we're more concerned about getting rid of bots than the fact that bots are actually paid subs and increase their quarterly results. We know that's the reason why they're not getting rid of bots. So if they actually gave a shit about this game and got rid of bots, consume costs would come way down and it wouldn't be a problem. A consume revamp, I think he's talking to probably like TBC. I like the way consumes are done in Classic. The problem is their ridiculous price because of bots. I don't like this. The problem for me is bots. Get rid of bots. Instant mail, I'd be fine with that. Remove spell batching completely, I would be okay with that. Other massive quest lines like the AQ Gate quest. Do we need more quest content? The AQ Gate quest is kind of cool. If he's talking about the Scarab Lord quest, the problem with the Scarab Lord quest is both a positive and a negative. The negative is that there's so few people that are actually able to do it. The positive is that there's so few people that are able to do it, right? Like it's kind of a reward. Most guilds are giving it out as a reward for certain players, or I don't know, maybe some people are just, you know, they're getting rewarded for other reasons. We won't get into that. So we're going to give kind of meh about this, to be honest, kind of meh. Jumping puzzles. Jesus Christ. Okay. Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy, that stuff's over that way. Okay. That stuff's over that way. An armory. I think I might be okay with an armory, to be honest. I think I might be okay, actually, with an armory. I don't know that that would ruin my experience if there was an armory. Would it ruin your guys' experience? I don't think it would ruin new zones. Why do you need more zones, dude? We do not need more zones in Classic. There's lots of zones. There's lots of zones in Classic, man. Voice acting for more quests. I'm going to mark this as a no and maybe make it so, actually, I'm going to mark it as yellow, and I'm going to explain why. Needs a toggle, an on-off toggle. Okay, needs an on-off toggle, because I personally can't stand being forced to listen to voice acting crap. I can't stand having to be forced to listen to it. I just would want to like turn it off immediately. So it would definitely, I can understand why some people like it from a role-playing perspective. It drives me nuts though when I have to listen to that stuff. Force max of 55, 45, and how would you do this? Force max of 55 to 45 in PvP servers. What do you have? Queue times? I understand that he means to fix the balance issues, but keep in mind, there's some people that actually like to play with those imbalance issues, right? Like there were servers that were heavily imbalanced, and those players that were on those servers that if it was dramatically horde imbalanced, a lot of those horde players were not moving off. Like the ones that was like 90% horde, if those horde were so bothered by it, they would have transferred off, and a lot of them weren't. And a lot of alliance players, they would go to Heartseeker because they didn't like the imbalance. They wanted to be on the server where it was that heavily imbalanced. And then there were servers like Fairlina or, you know, whatever, where the faction imbalance was basically fairly even. So there was quite a nice mix of servers. You got to choose if you wanted to be on a heavily alliance server or a heavily horde balanced server. So I'm not sure that I agree with this. Like, are you going to force people to go into queues because they happen to like playing Horde? I don't know that I like the idea of forcing people to switch factions. I think the factions, like, I mean, most of the servers that were heavily imbalanced were imbalanced for the Horde, but there was one or two that were imbalanced in favor of the Alliance. And those that wanted to be on imbalanced servers that were in favor of the Alliance, they had that option. They could have played on Heartseeker for NA, and I think there was one on EU as well, right? But forcing people into this situation, I mean, I like an even server, personally, but forcing people into that server, into that situation when there was people that were obviously perfectly happy to play in an imbalance. Hell, I played on Heartseeker, which was 2% Horde, and I loved it. It was the best time that I had. Where if you're forced a force max of 55-45, that would ruin the fun that we had. We had a blast playing that way. So I don't know how you would implement this. And because I don't trust Blizzard to implement anything, we got to give that a big fat no. Until I hear more about how they're going to do it, that's a big fat no. That's a no. I think there's people that actually like playing in that imbalanced situation. And if you don't, you can find a server that is balanced, because there was lots of servers that were balanced as well. There's a lot of red on here. And again, obviously, I think a lot of this is just Asmongold doing this for content, satire. I think he knows a lot of this would just not fly with the actual Classic community. So the big one, I can't believe he's missed this. I'm going to put this in big effing letters too. Big letters. How big can we go here? 100? This might ruin the rest of it, but that's fine. No. Oh, that's not even big enough. That's not even anywhere near big enough. I need like 300 or something. No bots. We'll do it slightly smaller. 250. No bots. like that is the biggest. If there's anything before any of this, there's none of this stuff behind no bots should even be here until bots are dealt with. That is the biggest thing that you should have on your wish list. And the fact that that was missed, I'm kind of disappointed. Anyways, that's my reaction to Asmongold's obviously somewhat satirical wish list, but that's basically how I would look at a lot of the things that he put on the list. A lot of red. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time.